Welcome back to the School of Wife. I'm Dr. Dusumo, and today we're continuing our conversation about relationship physics. In our last episode, we covered the 4 positions of relationship momentum. Position 1, mutual progress, where both partners are moving forward toward connection. Position 2, one partner stagnant, where one is invested while the other is stationary. Position 3, slow divergence, where one partner is moving gradually away or drifting away. Position 4, active divergence, where one partner is actively moving towards something else. If you haven't watched that episode yet, I recommend starting there and taking the relationship momentum assessment at schoolofwife.com. Today, we're diving into the specific prescriptions for each position. Here's the truth about relationship advice. What works brilliantly in one position can actually damage a relationship in another position. It's like medicine. The right prescription for the right condition creates healing. The wrong prescription can make things worse. So let's get specific about exactly what works for each relationship position. Let's start with position 1, mutual progress. This is where both partners are actively invested in the relationship. You might think if we're both already engaged, we don't need strategies. That's actually a common misconception that leads many good relationships to deteriorate over time. Even the healthiest relationships require intentional maintenance. In fact, research shows that without specific maintenance behaviors, almost 40% of position 1 relationships will slide into position 2 within 2 years. Here are the 3 most effective strategies for maintaining momentum in position 1. First, implement scheduled relationship check-ins. Think of these as preventive medicine for your marriage. Set a monthly relationship state of the union conversation where you can discuss what's working well, areas for improvement, and update your shared goals and dreams. Research shows that couples who regularly discuss relationship quality show higher satisfaction over time. This works well because it prevents small issues from becoming major problems and keeps you aligned as life changes. For busy physicians, I recommend actually scheduling these check-ins like you would an important meeting. 30 minutes once a month with phones off and no distractions. Second, focus on skills expansion. Just as your CME credits keep your professional skills sharp, relationship skills require ongoing development. This could mean reading relationship books together, attending a workshop, or working with a relationship coach, or being a part of the School of Wife. This helps you learn new communication techniques, new intimacy practices, and gives you tools that you would not have otherwise known about. Couples who continuously develop relationship skills show greater resilience during challenging life transitions. And we know what those are: residency, fellowship, practice changes, having children, lives. Will you be ready? Third, prioritize growth-oriented experiences. Plan novel experiences that create shared growth, things that stretch both partners' comfort zones a bit and create new neural pathways. It might be fun to learn a new skill together, travel somewhere unfamiliar together, try activities neither of you have done before together. These experiences increase dopamine and create stronger bonding through mutual vulnerability. The key is that these experiences require both of you to be present and engaged. It's not just parallel activities where you're physically together, but mentally elsewhere. For position 1 relationships, I recommend reassessment every 6 months to maintain momentum. The good news is that with consistent attention, position 1 relationships tend to become more resilient and more satisfying over time. Now let's talk about position 2. That's one partner stagnant. This is where one partner is actively investing while the other one remains stationary. This position creates particular frustration for many women physicians. They often tell me, I'm trying everything, but my partner just isn't engaging. The key insight for position 2 is that direct attempts to get your partner to engage often increase resistance. Instead, we need to create movement through strategic self-focus and attraction principles. Here are the 3 most effective strategies for position 2. First, focus on your personal growth. This might sound counterintuitive. Shouldn't you be focusing on the relationship? But research from the University of California actually shows that personal growth creates relationship curiosity in over 3/4 of stagnant partners. Invest in your own well-being and development. When I talk about this, I'm not talking about work more. I'm talking about you pursuing things that interest you and energize you, and then share your growth. Share your growth journey without pressure for them to join you. This works because it shifts the dynamic from pursuer-distancer to 2 individuals with independent growth trajectories. It also makes you more interesting, and it creates natural curiosity. It makes you relaxed. For physicians, this often means reclaiming the parts of yourself that existed before medicine consumed your entire identity. Your creative pursuits, physical activity, intellectual interests outside of medicine. These are the kinds of things. Did you have a hobby before you went to medical school? Pursue your hobby. Take care of yourself. Get a massage. Do things that make you feel whole. Second, create strategic connection opportunities. These are low pressure, high enjoyment interaction points designed around activities your partner historically enjoyed. You know your partner. You know what he used to like. He still does like those things. The key is to use light touch invitations rather than demands. I'm going to try hiking on Saturday. Would you like to join us? It's different from, we need to spend more time together this weekend. This works because low pressure positive experience reduces relationship resistance, and it creates safe methods and pathways for re-engagement. When there's no emotional demand attached to the invitation, acceptance becomes easier. Third, implement a revised expectations framework. Create clear, achievable requests that promote small wins. So focus on your partner's behaviors rather than your feelings or his attitude, and celebrate any movement, no matter how small. For example, instead of asking for more emotional connection, I need you to be more emotionally connected. This is vague. Your partner may not even know what that means. Instead, you can request, can we have 15 minutes of uninterrupted conversation after dinner twice a week? And if that happens, celebrate even if you get 5 minutes of uninterrupted conversation after dinner. Make the environment right. This works because small successes create momentum through reinforcement psychology. Positive to negative interactions increase and optimize relationship improvement. So for position 2, I recommend reassessing every 8 weeks. Movement typically happens gradually, and you're going to start seeing small signs of re-engagement before you see larger shifts. Now let's move to position 3. Slow divergence. This is the drift. One partner is moving gradually away from the relationship, while the other is still seeking connection continually. Position 3 can create deep pain and confusion. Women tell me, I feel like I'm losing my partner and I don't even know why. The slow nature of the divergence makes it both subtle and devastating. The prescription for position 3, though, is to interrupt the divergence through strategic repositioning and reconnection stimuli. Now, let me tell you the 3 most effective approaches. First, pattern interruption. Identify the predictable negative cycles in your relationship. Identify the conversations that always end the same way, the triggers that reliably lead to disconnection, the dynamics that repeat endlessly. Then deliberately change your response. If what you typically do is pursue, try stepping back. If what you typically do is withdraw, try staying engaged. If what your normal is to defend, try listening without response. This works because pattern interruption breaks neural relationship habits. Studies have shown that couples experience improved connection after consistently breaking established negative patterns. The novelty alone creates new possibilities. Your partner will notice that something is different. Secondly, focus on value reconnection. Beneath the surface of disagreements often lie shared core values that have been completely forgotten. Identify those fundamental values and emphasize them in your conversations. For example, if you typically fight over disciplining the children, that surface disagreement can still be there, but try to share the core values that you have. Try to bring that up. You have the core value of raising resilient children. That is the deeper value. Reconnect on the shared value so that you can create common ground. This works because being aligned in values creates powerful psychological anchoring. Even when the behaviors are temporarily misaligned, it reminds both of you why you chose each other initially. Third, practice strategic vulnerability. Share your genuine needs and feelings without blame. Express impact rather than intention. Make specific requests, actionable requests. For example, you can say things like, I feel lonely when we don't talk in the evenings. You're being vulnerable. It's different from saying, you always ignore me. That's blaming. This works. Neuroscience has actually shown that vulnerability activates mirror neurons, and empathy is usually the response in most partners, even during the periods of disconnection. Vulnerability creates connection opportunities that criticism destroys. So for position 1 relationships, I usually recommend a 4-week reassessment. Changes in direction, positive or negative, can happen relatively quickly once you start these interventions. Finally, let's talk about position 4. This is active divergence, where there's one partner that is actively moving towards something else, either a career, a hobby, a friendship, or sometimes even another relationship. This position represents the highest risk, but contrary to popular belief, it's not hopeless. The prescription in this position is to create a deliberate choice point through contrast and clarity. Here are the 3 approaches that research shows are most effective. First, implement reality, clarification. Clearly communicate the relationship status without blame or accusation. Clearly communicate the relationship status without blame and without accusation. Set specific, observable behavior changes needed for the relationship to continue in a healthy way. Establish a timeline for reassessment. This might sound like this. I've noticed that we're growing apart, and I've noticed that you're spending most of your evenings and weekends away from home. That's an observation. For our marriage to work, we need to spend at least a few evenings a week, 2 evenings a week together. I want us to reassess where we are again in 30 days. This works because research actually has shown that partners in active divergence actually lack awareness of the impact on their relationship. Clarity creates the necessary decision points that vague complaints don't. Second, focus on consequence illumination. Articulate the natural consequence of continued divergence. Focus on concrete impacts rather than threats. Remove any enablers of divergent behavior. This isn't about ultimatums like change or I'm leaving. No, that's not what we're talking about. It's about reality. You can say things like, when you're consistently unavailable, I'm forced to build a life separate from you. That's not the marriage either of us wanted. This works because consequence awareness activates risk assessment centers in the brain, creating a motivation for behavior change. People respond to clearly understood risks. Third, implement the attraction positioning. Focus intensely on your personal well-being and growth. Create visible evidence of relationship potential and establish healthy boundaries that respect your needs. This is about becoming a compelling destination rather than a clingy attachment. Create curiosity about what you're experiencing and building. This works because studies show that attraction principles are more effective than pursuit behaviors when partners are actively diverging. It actually has a 3 times higher reconciliation rate. So for position 4 relationships, I recommend reassessing every 2 to 4 weeks with clear decision points. This position requires both strategic intervention and personal protection. Let me conclude with this important reminder. The position that your relationship is in right now is not your final destination. Relationships are fluid, with momentum that can shift when the right intervention is put in place, especially if it's done at the right time. The most liberating insight from relationship physics is that you have more influence than you realize. While you can't control your partner's choices, your position and movement significantly impact the relationship's trajectory. This isn't about manipulation. It's about working with natural relationship laws rather than against them. Just as understanding physical laws doesn't let you violate gravity, but does let you build an airplane, when you understand relationship physics, it cannot guarantee the outcome, but it can dramatically improve your odds. Your next step is to implement the specific prescription for your current position. Start with just one strategy and give it consistent effort for at least 30 days and then reevaluate the results. Remember that relationship momentum shifts gradually. Small changes precede larger ones. Look for subtle indicators of movement and don't necessarily expect dramatic transformations overnight. Now, let me tell you one other thing that I suggest. If you're a person of faith like I am, you may not be able to change your partner's mind, but there is one that can. I always suggest prayer. It works wonders. Now, if you haven't taken the full assessment yet, I recommend that you go to schoolofwife.com so you can determine your exact position. You can receive a detailed intervention plan, which will be customized to your situation and position. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Dosunmu. This is School of Wife, where we help female physicians learn to create marriages as exceptional as their careers. See you next time.